Recently, Taehyung and Jungkook appeared together at the airport, and as expected, they caused a stir. Not only among fans, but also in the Korean media. The press said nice things about the two, that they have a similar gaze, that they are handsome, and that they attract attention without doing anything special. But what was most surprising was how even the media acknowledged that seeing Taekook together is something special. It's not just because of the fame, but because of the energy they have when they are next to each other. What there is between them is real. For years, Jungkook and Taehyung have shared many moments, both on stage and off. They have grown together, they have learned together, and they know each other better than anyone. Their relationship does not seem like an ordinary friendship. It's more like those couples who no longer need to say much because with a look they already understand each other. That was clearly seen at the airport. They walked calmly, without rushing, in comfortable clothes, and yet they looked like the cutest couple. And of course, that selfie they took was like the icing on the cake. It wasn't something staged or prepared for the cameras, it was a simple but very meaningful moment. A normal photo, but one that says a lot. Because when you see two people who are good together, you notice it. And that image said exactly that. They don't need to hug each other all the time or be close, they're just there for each other, without exaggerating. Some people compare Taekook to other people in the group, especially Jimin, and think there's something going on between him and Jungkook. But the truth is that these situations are often staged for the content, for the fans. When there are cameras everywhere and staff members around, it's easy to think something is real when in reality they're just working. There's nothing wrong with that. It's part of the entertainment world. But it's very different from what you see with Taehyung and Jungkook. They don't put on a show. They don't need someone to tell them how to act. Their thing is natural. It doesn't matter if there are cameras or not. Their way of looking at each other, waiting for each other, walking together, is always the same. You can see they really know each other. Those who have had a real relationship, or those who are in a relationship, know how to recognize it. The connection between them is like that of a young couple just starting a life together. There is respect, there is care, there is love. There's no need to be all over each other all the time. There's room to breathe, but also to be close. Taehyung and Jungkook have always been discreet. They don't usually talk about their personal lives, but their actions speak volumes. Every time they appear together, people notice. That's what makes Taekook special, it's about what they show when they're together. And what they show is a real connection, one that doesn't depend on cameras or shows. Just two people who know each other well and who choose each other, again and again, with every step they take. That day Jungkook was the first to arrive at the airport, but he didn't leave right away, he preferred to wait for Taehyung. He did it because he wanted to leave with him, like they've done many times before. It was something he chose to do, and it shows how important Taehyung is to him. Sometimes people talk without knowing what's really going on. They say things just for the sake of it, and often end up confusing others. Lately, there are a lot of people who spend their time taking things out of context, especially those who insist on supporting other ships like Jungkook's. They say it's real, but the truth is that most of those scenes seem planned by the company to attract attention. That kind of thing is called fan service, and it's very common in the industry. It's done to entertain, to keep the public's interest, not because it reflects a real relationship. But in Taehyung and Jungkook's case, there's a difference. What they show doesn't seem acted or planned. You can tell when someone does something because they truly mean it. In a recent video, you can see Jungkook arriving at the airport alone, and the first thing he did was go to the bathroom. A perfectly normal thing after a long trip. While there, his security guards protected him and prevented anyone from approaching him. Then, instead of continuing on his way like many artists do, he decided to wait for Taehyung. He simply waited for him because he wanted to. Because it made more sense to him to leave with the person with whom he shares so much. Afterward, the two appeared walking together as always. Calm, relaxed, with that closeness that has been seen many times before, and it's not the first time they've done something like this. They shared many moments over the years, and not just on stage or in front of cameras. These are details that go unnoticed by some, but for those who know them well, they speak volumes. There are those who prefer to believe they're just friends or that everything they do is calculated. But when you look closely, you realize that their relationship goes much further. Jungkook wouldn't wait for just anyone. He did it because Taehyung is important to him, and we're not talking about a simple friendship. It shows in the way they look at each other, in the way they treat each other, in the type of connection they have. Of course, there are many who continue to insist on supporting other ships. They do it because they want to see what's best for them, not what's actually happening. But you don't have to force anything to see that there is something real between Jungkook and Taehyung. It's something that has been building over time, something that doesn't need long explanations or far-fetched theories. At the airport it was clear once again, Jungkook chose to wait and share that moment with the person who matters most to him, and that is worth a lot. There are people who try to deny the obvious, but the videos and images show everything clearly. Jungkook and Taehyung were together, as a couple, sharing a simple but special moment. And yes, there will be those who continue to say that it is not real. But sometimes it's not about convincing everyone, it's about looking closely, understanding what is happening without being swayed by what others say. Jungkook and Taehyung share something true, and even if they don't say it with words, they show it every time they are together. Taehyung and Jungkook don't need many words to understand each other. There's a connection between them that isn't limited to the visible. Although many people have seen them share a stage, interviews, or events, what truly stands out between them goes beyond what most notice at first glance. They are two people who, more than bandmates, are a couple. And that's reflected in the way they treat each other, in the gestures they have towards each other, and in the moments they share both in public and off camera. When they're together, it's not uncommon to see them holding hands, gently touching shoulders, or simply looking at each other with a calmness that gives the feeling that the rest of the world disappears. These are not forced or rehearsed actions. It's something natural, like a habit that was born over time and strengthened as they grew together. They don't have to say "I'm here" for the other to know. A glance or a small gesture is enough to understand each other. There are scenes behind the scenes where this connection is evident. Before going out to perform, there have been moments when one of them approaches the other to encourage them. Sometimes it's a touch on the back, other times a short, whispered conversation, but they are always attentive to each other. They look to each other, spontaneously offering support, and it gives them confidence. It's as if they need that connection to be whole before facing the audience. It's not an attitude they have with everyone. Although they get along well with the other members of the group and there is affection and respect between them, what happens between Taehyung and Jungkook is different. There is a constant closeness. When they walk together, they do so calmly. Sometimes one waits without saying anything, just so the other doesn't fall behind. At other times, they walk so close that there is barely any space between them, and even when there are cameras or people around, they act as if it doesn't matter. On more than one occasion, they have been seen sharing moments that have nothing to do with their work. They've traveled together, gone for walks without worrying about who's watching, shared rooms, shared laughter, shared silences, and shared everyday gestures that might seem simple to many, but in their case, demonstrate a strong and sincere relationship. It's in those small details that you can see how much they feel. They don't need to say it, because they already show it with their actions. Many people have discussed their relationship. Some think they're just good friends, that their closeness stems from the years they've been working together. Others believe it's all planned, that their behavior is meant for the public. However, there are those who observe more carefully. And when you look closely, the difference is clear. Jungkook wouldn't wait for just anyone with that patience. He wouldn't hold just anyone's hand so naturally. He does it because Taehyung holds a special place in his life. And this is also reflected in the way they take care of each other. Not only when they're well, but also in times of stress or fatigue. You can tell how one realizes when the other is exhausted, how they support them without saying much, how they hug them when they need it. These are simple but consistent gestures. What they have doesn't depend on a stage or a camera rolling. What they have is present all the time. It's common to see them talking to each other when they're surrounded by others. Even during group interviews, they tend to lean toward each other. They whisper, smile, and support each other with small actions. Sometimes it's just a quick glance that's enough to relax the other. Other times, one starts a joke that only the other understands. That familiarity, that kind of understanding, is only seen in people who share something profound. We mustn't forget that they've grown up together, from very young ages. They shared learning experiences, personal changes, difficult decisions, and many moments that have shaped them as artists and as people. But even with everything they share with others, there's a part of their bond that is exclusively theirs. They don't try to hide it, but they don't advertise it either. They simply live it naturally. Over the years, their gestures have become more consistent. Whether they're in front of thousands of people or in a quiet moment backstage, the way they relate to each other remains the same. They've developed a language that doesn't require words. Every touch of hands, every held gaze, every shared smile is part of a silent communication that only they understand.